It's Monday, May 15th. Call the meeting to order at 7:04. We'll start by having everyone introduce themselves, beginning on my right.
Kevin McNabola.
John Safrelli, Finance Director.
Joe Nuzzo.
Jim Leahy.
Kevin Houlihan, thank you. Item number 3, public dialogue. Would anybody wish to address us? Nope,
I
okay.
think-
Donnie?
Donnie, I think.
All right.
Donnie, I grabbed those things. I don't know if it may or may not be helpful to you, but
Okay.
because you and I got together the other morning at my house over coffee just to talk it through.
Good evening, everyone. This the first time you ever had public participation in a meeting?
It's close, but no.
No,
I thought it'd be a good opportunity here to talk about the roads in town, where we've been, where we are, and where we'd like to be. The town of Orange has 110 miles of road to maintain. We get a readout from the state every year as far as the mileage. But it's a little deceiving because we all know Lambert Road from Route 1 to Orange Center comes out at 2.57 miles. South Lambert, which goes from, say, TGI Fridays down to Marsh Hill, is 0.32. However, it's 5 lanes wide. And Marsh Hill, which is 0.98, just shy of a mile, is 6 lanes wide when you get on the bridge. So it's a little deceiving as far as the mileage that way. In 2014, we started to change over to asphalt. Started getting away from the chip seals. They weren't holding up anymore, and the roads have been, getting in bad shape. So from 2014 to now, we are approximately 53.44 miles complete, which roughly is, I'm going to say, halfway. In that period of time, we had 2 bonds. One, I think, was $5 million, and I think the other was $7 million. And the difference was made up by you people through the general fund. And you've been very supportive, and we thank you for that. Also, in that time period, we did 4 schools. We did the town hall parking lot. We did the firehouse next door parking lot. We did High Plains Community Center, which included that new piece in the center that was used to be a grass area
yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
And a little story with that. Bob Heiser was the engineer for his second term when he was here. And we were going over the paving list and stuff, and he was adamant that he wanted to do High Plains in one shot, the whole thing. And I said, geez, Bob, it's really not a good idea. I said, you got the senior citizen center up there. And I says, the seniors can take a little bit of disruption, but too much. And I says, they're going to let you know about it. And now don't forget, Bob's 87, 88 when I'm telling him this. So he says, no, he says, we'll park them in the grass. We'll do that. And so I said, okay. I says, you're the boss. I says, well, if you want, we'll do it. I says, but here's the deal. The first senior that comes questioning as to why it's such a mess up here, I'm giving him your name and number. He looked at me for a minute and he goes, what do you want to do first, the front half or the back half? So needless to say, we did the front half first, and then the following year we did the back half. We also did the police department, highway department, Route 1 firehouse, and the transfer station. So all that was done in that since 2014, and we're in pretty good shape. There's only 2 more parking lots that are on my radar, and that's I call it the tennis court parking lot at High Plains Community Center, which is like around the back where the tennis courts are, and the old and new library at some point in time.
So Donnie, when you mentioned that 57 miles of road, these other parking lots and all those other things that you're mentioning now that we talked about the other day, that's in addition to that.
These are in addition to the
57, whatever it turns
53.
out to be.
Yeah, 53.44.
53.44.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's in addition to that. Yes, correct. So it leaves us basically 56 miles to go. So, like I said, we're close to halfway there. Do all 56 miles of road need it? No, probably 55 do, though. So we're averaging 6 miles a year. May sound a little, but it's just about where we would like to be. We like to be between 6 and 8 miles a year is good. Which on an average is, $1.5 million, and that's what we asked for this year as well. I'm just going to read off a few roads here that, we get calls daily, and people from Avon Drive, Ann Rose, Juniper, Bayberry, Longmeadow, Wildwood, High Ridge, Quarter Mile, Red Fox, Rail Fence, and that's just to mention a few. They all call and they want to know where they are on the list. And my answer to them was, you're on our radar, but I can't give you a list because I don't know if I'm paving from year to year, is my problem. So I think my purpose of being here tonight is I'm hoping and wishing for some kind of predictability as to if we're going to pave year to year, or, every January I have to come and ask for the money. And again, you guys been great with it, but is that the right way to do it? I don't know. It just I don't know from year to year whether we're paving or not.
We've been paving, right, Donnie? We shoved this at the town, you were at the town budget.
We've been
town
paving
budget
every year since 2014, correct?
to varying degrees.
Yes.
And this is what I created, given that, John, I think it was you or Art Williams, someone sent me a file. Maybe it was yourself. All right, so I just threw it together, and you can see the one, 15 was a little bit of an anomaly. Maybe you could talk to it, Donnie, but the way I remember hearing about it was we had a lot of bond money.
That was bond money,
And
yes,
that was coming
yeah.
off of a down swath, I guess, in terms of our paving.
Correct, and
we
that's
wanted to
probably
catch
with
up a
the,
bit.
you could throw in some schools and you could throw in some
Okay.
of the other parking lots in
Okay.
that time.
So you're mentioning predictability, like this year, was this a good way we did
Well-
it this year?
Yes, we come to you in January
Right.
asking for, $1 million, $1.5 million, whatever. Kind of got to wait to get your answer, and then I'll go to our paving company is Tilcon, and Garrity does our grinding.
Right,
So I basically go to Tilcon first and give him my wish list of the roads that we're looking at. Get his proposal back, and probably got to take the red pencil to about half of them that I wanted to do to get down to where we're going to be. And then we proceed, and then I take you for a ride, which you admit there's sections of town you never even know existed.
roger that. A road, last 25, 30 years, what do we got?
25, 30 years, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
And there's different degrees, because I don't want to be the bad guy, but like my neighborhood, where you said Bayberry and Longmeadow, and I have friends and clients over there, so they can call me and yell at me. They're cul-de-saced. They're not Grassy Hill, they're not Pine Tree, they're not Lambert, they're not Orange Center. They're always going to be delayed versus the main roads.
Well, just for the record, Grassy Hill and Orange Center are state roads.
Okay, so,
So-
yeah, you're right. But you know what I mean.
Yeah,
There's certain
yeah, well-
roads that are not, like my neighborhood's cul-de-sac that finally got done, but it was pretty bad. There was a pothole on Crocker Court that I could lose my car in if I didn't know was there to go around it. So I don't know,
And so are these other roads. They're, these people are just as justified as the,
Oh, I
Get paved.
agree, but I don't think we could sit here and say we're going to do $2 million a year every year. I don't see how you can do that.
No, I'd be comfortable. That chart, Jim, if you can bring that chart back up from 2015 to 2023. During those same years, the town has been fortunate that we ran actually surpluses in those years due to excess revenue and under expenditures on our expense side. So I would be very comfortable based on where we are currently on fund balance. We're up around 19%. I know you have to calculate the money that we just recently took out for the capital, but I would be comfortable with $1 million a year as a guarantee, and then maybe you come back in January, and maybe that number can be refined based on how we're trending for the year. It could be either increased or decreased, depending on whether we see a projection coming in for more surpluses. I'm pretty comfortable with that number, because if you look over the last 7 years, we've actually had a surplus over the last 7 years. and it's been pretty steady. I mean, I know we talked about this budget that we're going into in the coming year being a little bit more problematic. It's going to be a little bit more conservative than the prior years, but I would be comfortable funding at least $1 million a year in roads. 'Cause I agree
I
with
mean,
you.
if you know that
No,
going ahead, it does
that-
help.
I would say $1 million. You get to the $1.5 million, $2 million stage, which is
Yeah.
what everybody wants, and we know we have these other issues with the flooding going on. That kind of gives me like, okay. And
Yeah.
we did $1 million this year. You wanted $1.5 million.
$1.5 million, yeah. Well, that
We said we'll
I
do $1 million. We did that in January, February, and
I do
then
2 programs. I do
when we get to
I-
like now or June,
yeah.
we could see how the year's looking better.
Right.
Then we could say, okay, now here's
Yeah.
another.
Well, here's a
half.
typical, and Donnie can talk to it, but here's, again, what Donnie told me when we got together before I took the ride with him, Don. That was your spring, you have 2 lists. One was the spring list. which
spring
we
and fall,
funded,
correct.
Right?
Correct.
And there's a fall list. Now, 2 things, I've done enough with Donnie to know this, right? First of all, we're blessed to have the highway department people that we have and Donnie leading it as a town.
Thank you.
I go by what I see, as Bill Parcells says, every camp, right, to the veterans and the rookies. All right, so. One of the things I've learned from Donnie, which I'd like to reemphasize, and it doesn't mean there's no so therefore there for all of us, is for the predictability of the money, because he then can plan, get on the front end of the, what's the name of the?
Tilcon.
Tilcon's
Tilcon, yeah.
list.
Yeah.
Because if you get in early.
Right.
If you get in early, you get in kind of like when they have a dip of a hole.
Yeah.
They want to fill that over in Karen Drive.
This
it's
year
already
was
been done.
perfect. I mean, this year was
works out for them, it
unbelievable
works
this
out
year.
for us.
Yeah.
So we kind of get a good gig there, if we can do that, all right? Secondly, which I'd like all of us to understand, if we have 110 miles of road, and if we have all those other wider roads and parking lots, let's call it 120. If you do 6 a year, that means you circle back after 20 years, right? But they last 25 to 30. So if we have a down draft, Kevin, like you're suggesting, or there's an economic issue, right? 08, 09, and perhaps next year, who knows, right? You don't crater the town in terms of its roads if you have a 30-year or 25 to 30-year span to attack. If you could do 6 a year, right, which would be $250 a mile, right, Don?
Average,
We worked it out.
yeah.
And as we do less reclaiming, it probably comes under that. But then inflation may take you a little bit higher than that. But let's use $250 a mile. That's 4 miles for $1 million, 6 for $1.5 million, right? So if you could do $1.5 million, like we have been doing for a number of years, there's the average over on the right.
Yeah, 1.5,
okay?
yeah.
Right, 1.5. Then you're ahead of the game. Everybody's wants their road done, right? I want my driveway done, haven't done it in 20 years, right? But, you're the leader of the know best which ones are best. But if we could do a little bit more predictability, we get a good deal with Tilcon.
Tilcon.
Okay, and we got the best team doing that in the towns around here, and a smart team. And I think there's a lot to be said. So I think it's the predictability, if I heard you right, Donnie.
Basically, yeah.
you'd
I
like to
mean,
be guaranteed, at least,
we kind of want to know where we're heading. I mean,
And this year's a good example.
yeah.
Where do we
Yep.
stand, for example, on the fall?
Correct.
For this, for
Right now it's 0
Right.
because we did the $1 million for the spring. Right, John? Unless I'm missing something.
You're actually, I believe they're actually in the hole. I think, according to Britt, and looking at his memo, I think they spent 1.1 million. We only authorized 1 million.
Right.
Yep, there's a authorization to transfer. I saw that in the
Yeah.
packet, yeah.
Yeah, that's item 7.
Which-
That's where I thought Donnie was coming into, so that's why I didn't recognize you immediately.
Yep.
So you are the first public speaker since Paul Davis back at our prior meeting a few months ago, but we will set the record for the longest public. So, but that's all good.
Kevin, how do we go about this? And John, and there's others in leadership positions, obviously, in town, on deciding, when do we decide that level? What are the variables? How can you just give me 20?
It's up to you, totally up to
Yeah,
you.
we decide, we vote on it.
I've told you what's coming down the road. If you feel that you can afford to do more, it's totally up to you.
And that's the
The
competition for that dollar
The
would
only
be.
place where you're forced to do things is when the Board of Selectmen authorizes something, like they're gonna authorize the flooding, the
Right.
thing on Old Country Road and Pine Tree Drive.
When
which
those-
is out to bid
When that
right
stuff
now.
comes in, yeah.
Right,
Now,
And we
John-
don't know what
yeah.
that is.
right.
John, you had mentioned earlier that that was going to be funded through ARPA funding. Is that correct?
If that's what you and the Board of Selectmen decide. that
Yeah.
The
I mean-
first selectman would. like
If there's
to see it
enough, because
done.
we don't know
Yeah.
what those prices are.
You don't know what the bids are.
Because some of those are
Right.
pretty bad.
Right.
So if
Both-
it's us,
Both projects, both Pine Tree Drive, Old Country Road, and then Derby, Milford Road up in that area, where Danaher's used to live.
Yeah.
They're both by the engineers were estimated at $3 million each.
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 And we got 2.5 in ARPA, so that blows that right out of
I
the
thought it
water.
was 4 we had.
But I think what's gonna happen there is the bids are gonna come in somewhat lower.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think they'll come in at 6.
Yeah.
So-
Well, only one is being bid right now. The Old Country Road one, I think, is the only one being bid, right?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
They're
Old Country
looking at-
Coachman's.
They're looking
the
at
two of them.
some other options up on Derby, Milford Road,
Yeah.
up in that area.
so John, you're, going back to my question,
Go ahead.
you're telling me that this board decides that.
Right.
So in a sense, then paving is competing with all of the other capital projects
Correct.
for a limited set of amount of money, right, that we have. We have a certain amount in the general fund, we have to have certain fund balance ratios, right? But it's up to this board to do that. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yep.
Yeah.
The time, that's the amount. Now, the timing of doing that, is that up to us as well?
Yes. He technically can't enter into a contract without an appropriation.
Right.
I technically can't pay a bill if the money hasn't been appropriated to pay.
And that's done by this, we don't have to go to anybody else? Thank you.
No, we approved that
So,
million.
My question was, I was gonna have Mr. Britton probably tomorrow write you guys a letter for the other $500,000, hopefully by June.
Yep.
Yeah, because that would have to be an agenda item. We couldn't even.
And
even
that's
if-
fine.
Even if these guys wanted to tonight, we can't say, oh, here's another
Yeah,
$500,000.
Yeah.
no,
No,
that's
I
fine, but
just-
my concern is, for that $500,000 is the South Greenbrier burning tree, which are over 50 heads that need replacing. So it's, if you
Yeah,
came
if you
to
go
us
back
and.
to this chart here,
So if you replace the
Process.
heads and
Yeah.
don't pave it for a year, what is, because I'm, just consider me illiterate in this regard.
You can replace the head, but then you have to pave it.
Yeah.
Right now, we're
Because you
replacing,
can't just replace the head, because
it has to be patched, it has to be
Yeah.
paved
The
in,
water
yeah,
won't run into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be raised.
Gotta be
Right.
level. Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So you're kind of wasting a little asphalt, I guess is what you want to say. But what I'm saying is, if you came to us in August and said, okay, you got money for Greenbrier, it's like, we're gonna have to hire contractors to help us out, because there's no way we could do all those 55 heads
Right.
in that time period. I like to do second wave, I like to do early September. I like to be done by the end of September with paving.
So,
If he had to hire a contractor to do that has to go to the Board of Selectmen and probably has to be bid out because.
and now the
It
way
takes more
that
time.
works, we're
Yeah,
next
and-
year.
It
Yeah, that
takes more
doesn't work.
time, yeah,
yeah, plus it's
exactly.
inefficient, because
Right.
we're using our own labor if we.
Right, we could do it if we have enough time.
Right.
Yeah. We were
That's
we were
the
changing
timing.
heads in March, which is unheard of.
Yeah,
But the weather being what it was, we were changing heads over in the New England area in March.
Yeah, you had a mild winter. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
so say Britain writes that letter, all right, up.
It'll
you know,
appear before you guys
yeah,
next month.
Up to,
and-
make sure it's up to 500,000, right? So that way, and we're gonna have a meeting in June, right?
June.
Even if it's a short one, right?
Yeah.
June
Okay,
7th,
good.
yeah.
long as there's
So
no,
we can take it
Amity
up there,
report.
and we'll have a better forecast and think about what we're doing in terms of money, maybe we know better.
If we have a
what's-
bid in on these other issues, that's my thing. I mean, I wanna do this, obviously, but that, in the back of my head,
I
that
think-
these potential expenditures are kinda scary.
I think you're gonna have the bid in June for the Old Country Road.
And that's the worst one.
That's due June 10th, on Friday, June 10th, so
You're gonna
I
meet
think
the
his
following Monday.
idea is to get it on the Board of Selectmen agenda probably for the June meeting.
And then-
If it gets on the Board of Selectmen agenda, then it'll be on our agenda for June. If it doesn't get on the Board of Selectmen thing, we'll have to go to July or whenever
But
we
we'll
get a
still know what
quorum.
that dollar is.
Yes, yes.
Okay, because-
There's one thing we may not know still what's going on with High Plains with the roof. I don't know where that is, quite frankly,
Could I
right now.
ask a question about, I heard you say some stuff and I just didn't document it, so I'd like to do that.
Excuse me.
So, Country Road, right, whatever that amount, is that thought that that would be ARPA money, and who makes that decision?
Board of Selectmen
Board of
and you,
Selectmen on how
and
to
you,
spend ARPA money.
And you. Like I said before, I bring it to, because of the controversy with that money, I bring it to both boards.
Right.
And the recommendation would be, if the Board of Selectmen agrees, is to recommend to use ARPA money to pay for whatever they want to pay for,
So,
Board
like
of
we've
Selectmen
done
would
in
have
the
to-
past.
the Board of Selectmen has to do it.
They have to enter into a contract, but they can't enter into a contract until the funding is in place. Funding has to be appropriated by us, technically.
Who appropriates ARPA money?
Both boards.
Both,
Both
who
boards.
is the first
Just like
one?
last year, we did $1 million in paving. We used ARPA money. Board of Selectmen recommended to us that we use ARPA money.
So that's
and
the
we
process,
voted.
they recommend it
Right.
to us.
Well, it doesn't have to be. One time we could recommend to them, but I want both boards
In
to be
agreement.
in agreement
Because of what's
to
happened
do
with other
it.
towns,
Okay.
John, that's
Yeah.
what we're
Okay.
doing.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Because
so it could go either way.
it's not clear for every town on what's supposed to be done. Like West Haven, using them as an example, they let
bad
one
example.
guy, that's why I'm using it. They let one guy
Use it in
decide
Mohegan.
what was gonna happen.
He approved it, he took the check, and he paid himself.
Okay, so it has to be, ARPA money has to be approved by both Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance in our town.
By my
But
procedure.
either of those two could initiate that process.
Right, right.
Okay, so it's an arrow going either way, one box and another box, could go either way.
But,
Who
but the
initiates?
key is the amount of that bid, not who's doing ARPA, not, because if that thing comes in at 4 million, we got a problem.
Right, yes, yes.
And that's the reality.
We have about 2 million left of ARPA money,
Okay,
and we have whatever we have in our capital fund. I think there's $1 million and a half after we took the money
yeah.
for the budget.
Well,
for
we
what
can look it up,
use.
I just
Yeah.
still got the Excel file we did last time.
Yeah, because it hasn't changed much, I
Okay.
don't think, since then.
So that's where it starts getting really narrow.
Yeah.
So the key for you in terms of predictability, in terms of amount, but timing
Timing also.
also
Yeah,
is
yeah.
to be able to save labor costs by getting it, knowing that you have, this is the amount of money, maybe 500,000, maybe, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But then you can start doing the heads for those roads in which you are definitely going to do paving, and you get front of the line in Tilcon.
Correct.
All right, third time's trump me. And that's beneficial to all parties.
Right.
And that's the
Right.
way we've been ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Okay, roger
Yeah.
that. So that's
It's
the
just the
next-
unknown. It's the unknown if we're gonna pave, it's the unknown if we're gonna do round two, it's the
Okay.
unknown that,
So
when
can we
these-
commit to having an answer for him next month, good, bad, or indifferent?
All depends on what the Board of Selectmen gets. If that doesn't come in on June 10th, we don't know. I'm not comfortable
Okay,
allocating more funds until we know what that number's gonna be, because we might not have it, and then what are we doing going into next year? I'd love to, that's why we didn't give them the 1.5 million back in January. We
I
kept
remember.
it to 1 million.
I remember.
I'd love to say, oh, let's do 500,000, but, I mean,
If it's
next
4 million,
meeting,
we don't have enough
outvote me
anyway.
5-1. I'm not, until I know what that old country, that proposal is, I don't want to spend any money.
You said the bids are back on June 10th, John?
They're supposed to be back on June 10th.
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to give them enough time, though, to get on the Board of Selectmen. I'm
But we'll
hoping
have-
it
At least you'll
will.
know the number.
We'll know the number.
Right.
If it comes in at $1.5 million, we're happy as heck. If it comes in at 4, you know,
Hey,
we have
there's-
2 million in
there's a-
ARPA, where's the other 2 million coming from?
There's another way you could do this going forward in the future. When we do the budget every year, allocate a certain amount of money every year in the budget for capital.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I've talked about doing that, taking $500,000 every year, moving it towards the capital account, and then he could have a designated thing, or,
Or we just pay, it's a budget line item for, you know, say $1 million, it's gonna be in the budget from now
I
on.
mean, my,
But-
my concern is,
But we just came through COVID and
Yeah.
inflation, and so we weren't doing that.
right.
We
I mean, we've
we
always-
did have the capital fund.
Right, we've always funded the capital fund through, surpluses and Amity and stuff,
Yep.
which Amity we may not have
You're not gonna
anymore
have,
either.
right.
No, that's over.
Yep.
My other concern is too, we start going outside of our budget process, we're gonna get a line of people in here asking for stuff. Such as last night, there was a big thing going around about the basketball courts at High Plains.
Oh, yeah.
Being in bad shape, so be prepared for that.
There's a
too.
big crack,
Yeah. You saw that?
of course, because I get people sending it to me.
Yeah.
How come you're not paying for this?
Yeah.
I don't have the checkbook,
It's
and I wasn't
amazing
aware of it.
How people can spend other people's money. Okay.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think we need to have a year, every year, a
Thank you.
guaranteed
Yep.
amount.
Yeah.
That could be.
No,
That
I'm
could be
all for
flexible.
that.
Yeah.
I just wish we didn't have this other situation going.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so, well, thank you for hearing me. I think we're all on the same
Thanks,
page.
Donnie. Great.
No, that we are.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a good discussion.
And if there's a way we
This is
find
helpful.
the 500 in June, we'll let you know that night.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks for hearing me out.
You're
All right, good.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Donnie.
Donnie.
Hey, Nate.
Okay,
All right, what else you got, Kev?
item number 4,
Yeah, it's you, Joey.
All right, so-
Amity update.
So the first thing with Amity, the vote was 2 weeks ago tomorrow. The vote was 1296 in favor of the budget versus 808 against the budget. So obviously that passed, 2/3 margin there. We didn't hear a lot of resistance out there, Jim. Did you hear much from anybody? Didn't see any bad press out there. It seemed like people were okay with the budget and the amounts and the percentages at 2 1/4 at this point. But then we also heard at the meeting that the state, although they said 85%, it's back to 73% reimbursement rate. So
Yeah,
the
I don't
state made a
understand that
mistake.
yo-yo.
So the state is lowering,
Yes.
but yet they're doing all these other wonderful things with the surplus money.
I don't understand how they can, well, during budget season, they tell people they go from, this is reimbursement for special
Yes,
education.
yes.
I think
Excess cost.
so the 85%, I think, was the governor's proposed budget.
Right.
And now the legislature has come back and cut it back to 73%.
73%.
Right? Wasn't it 70 prior to last year? Was
Well,
it 70 or?
but-
I think you're
Yeah,
right.
it's been 70-ish,
Yeah.
right, the last.
Yeah.
Low 70s,
and
you're
then
right,
the
yeah.
average. So they were saying that, but Amity budgeted for what, 80%? But they were less than that. So
Yeah.
now that's a little more than what we're getting. So
Yeah.
it could be a little bit of a gap there.
Well, compared to their almost million,
$1.5 surplus, so don't.
$1.6 billion surplus in the current year, which, oh, by the way, means
They're doing okay.
that they wouldn't have needed any budget increase for the current fiscal year and
At all.
still be up there.
So anyway.
So anyway, that's
All
a
right, so
different
that
issue.
was, yeah, that came up in the conversation last Monday. We know surplus is about $1.6 million at this point. They have their 2% allocated, that million in the transfer account, as we know and we've seen. So that's gonna be there forever, and the rest of the money's gonna stay with them to
But
offset.
with them, Joe, so I just want to make sure, they could put 2% in the capital of the current year surplus, that, the year that's going to end June 30th.
Right.
But according to Mr. Davis, I think with everything that's going on, we kind of ironed out of what can be done. If they choose, because if they do that, that could be dangerous, because if the 85% is now 73,
Yeah.
but that extra 1%, they could actually just say, all right, 1% is going to capital, and that other extra surplus from this year, they can just apply to next year's budget, so they won't have a hole from the state.
Right.
They can do that, right?
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not like
Oh, yeah.
It's not
on
that
Mars.
amount, it's not that great amount of money, Kev. I mean, I can figure it out.
It's all related to special
But they could
Right.
just make it 1.7% to
Right.
capital and
Right.
keep the other whatever and
Correct.
stick it in the
Right.
operating.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They have that flexibility to do that.
You good, Joe? Or
Yeah,
you-
yeah, I mean,
you
there's
continue?
not, there's not too much. We talked about the pension, the returns. Looks like our total fees are about 0.25% overall, which is pretty low, pretty reasonable. You said it's pretty, standard with the amount of money that they manage for us, so it seems to be a reasonable amount of fees that we're being charged. And then, the Amity pension's about almost 16, just under 16 million, and the return quarter to date's been 6 to 7%, fiscal year to date about 7%. The 1 year's down a -6. So the average for 3 years is still 10, 11%, so we're doing okay overall. The last year was a little off, but
Joe, do they have a 401 up there for any of their employees?
we don't talk about 401, I'm not sure. The 401, 403B is for teachers, but I don't know if we have that. I haven't seen that.
Right, everybody else must be on a 401, John.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting.
403B is for specifically the teachers.
Teachers.
Right.
We,
But like paras and, special ed aides, full-time,
Because
they're
the
probably
reason,
on 401A.
the reason why I say that, Fusion with the town, here,
Fiducian, yes, yes.
with the town here, they recommended that we went out to RFP on our 401 for the town because they thought our fees were too high.
Okay.
And we cut the employees pay the fees as part of the thing. Our fees went from 200,000 to 10,000.
Really?
So it might be, I don't know who they
Talk about doing
use.
more with less.
I don't know who they use up there, but it might be a good thing to suggest to Terry to look into, and she wants to call me. I'll be glad to
Save some
speak
money.
to her
I
about
mean, you
it.
would think that.
It wouldn't be for the region, but it'd be for the employees buying those mutual funds and
Wow.
all. I mean, it opened our eyes quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, you would think you have to be competitive to be managed this much money for the towns and the regional boards of ed. But 0.25 seems very reasonable to me. It was up to 1 at one time, and then you heard 7, now 0.25. I was like, 0.25, really?
I think that's what we pay.
Seems pretty low, yeah.
Yeah.
Seems fair, so,
And you have the same guy, Chris Cashmere up there.
yes, yes, yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep,
Catchmeyer, yeah, yeah.
fiducian.
Fiducian, yeah. So if that was the pension's almost 16 million. OPEB's about just under 3 million outstanding, and sick and severance is about $500,000 on the outstanding amount being managed. And the returns are all similar, as I mentioned. So there was nothing major last week that we discussed. And we talked about it in August, talking about the approval on the surplus monies, Jim. That usually comes in August, when no one's around. But nothing major with last week's meeting, just some expenses that they transfer. A health food program statement, which is standard. And some new fees for building use for Kevin's favorite, the John Brady Center for the Performing Arts. So they're increasing their fee,
No, he.
Paid for out of
That's
budget.
his second favorite. His favorite is the other one.
the library.
No. What was the thing? Not the Brady Center. The Brady Center is the beautiful place that the one with, the year they spent like 600,000 of the surplus.
For the black box,
The Black Box Theater that they named after him.
Black box theater's not named after Brady.
They took it out of the budget.
Yeah.
And then they had the
200,000.
surplus and bought it.
Yeah.
Paid for it,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought it was a different location.
Black
The
box.
Black
I don't
Box
remember,
Theater
but it
was a
was they-
separate thing. Well,
Aren't they renovating one of those?
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what he said.
So, yeah, that was based, not too much happening at this point.
If I can may piggyback on Joe's thing, is since it has to do with Amity, Kevin, and if you want to float it into what I report out on. This is the email I sent to the members of this team after receiving the files. Joe has mentioned some of it. But each month, if you're looking on at home, we get 2 files. One is an Excel file, one is a Word document file. It's standard work that was instituted back in the day when I was on the Amity Finance Committee. It's very helpful and helps people cut through the chase, and people on this committee are familiar with it. And so what I was heads-upping to the people, and similar to what you were talking about, Joe, in terms of the numbers only, the stated surplus, as you can see on the screen, was $590,000, and all of you got the email. However, they've already transferred over $1 million into the transfer account. It's interesting, I guess you could say, that it's already been transferred, even though it hasn't been approved to be transferred. So anyway, what it does...
Is that the 2% capital reserve? Yeah.
It's actually, I don't know if it's exactly 2%, Kevin, but it's that kind of thing, yes. And as we saw when we were reporting out recently, some of the items it would be an interesting analysis to look at the items being spent from this capital reserve and ask yourself some questions. And I think the questions really eventually get back to fairness and the appropriate accounting methodology. Fairness from the point of view is if you're spending money in a calendar year out of funds and you are doing it for something that's going to last 20 to 25 years, such as a roof, what you are doing is charging the people in that one calendar year for an asset that's going to actually be in place for 20 years. So that if you were here only for a couple of those years, you are paying for that full 20-year gig of that asset, which is, I think, I've been learning from Kevin McNabola and Kevin Houlihan, who do this for a living, that's not the way typically it's run at all. That's what you bond for. So that people who come in here in year 10, and they get 10 years of life of that same asset, their taxes should be paying that. So that's where the fairness doctrine comes in. And as I mentioned also, the appropriate methodology by which you do that. In any event, when you put the amount that's already been transferred to this transfer account back into the surplus, because that's where it comes from, your actual surplus is $1,667,040, which is what I explained to all of you. It's just the math. And I mentioned also in the third bulleted point there that has those arrows, the budget increase for the year that we're currently in, for this fiscal year, was an increase of $1,651,598 for Amity. This is after it had been reduced twice by voter referendum. At this moment, the actual surplus, after 10 months, is running ahead of the budget increase for this year, which means that had there been no increase in the budget for the year that we are currently in and almost finished for Amity, they would be running very well, thank you very much, in terms of providing the education for every student, for every need, for every special education, for all that they budgeted for. What they would not have is a large surplus. Specific changes in the last month, you can see there in 1 month, the salary account went down as an estimate for the year by $269,000. Benefits in 1 month. The benefit account, I copied and pasted and didn't change the name there, violation on me, is forecasted to go down by $300,000, which had you looked at the detail, you could see that in the Word document for a couple of months, which I have heads up to you before. And supplies, the forecast was to go down by $111,000. All the details are in the documents. I'm sure you can look them up. All right, grants in the revenue account went down by $210,000. I'm pretty sure, Joe, that might have been the difference. No, that had to do with a different thing than these 70s.
Yeah, that's next year.
That's next year. Okay. But there was an account that went down, and then the Word document provides you the details of why that went down. I just wanted to give you a little more detail to everyone here, everyone might be watching at home, of what's going on as far as Amity to support your numbers there, Joe. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're good. And there was, as we talked about OPEB, we're transferring $111,000, $112,000 to OPEB to the trust as we discussed.
Yep.
It's here. We've seen that.
That'd be another thing to add to that 667, by the way.
Yeah.
1,667,000.
And we're purchasing some new security cameras, interior, exterior cameras across the 3 schools for about $51,000 there, $57,000 there. So we're doing some upgrades there. I guess the cameras are getting old and dated software-wise. Some concrete work, there's some upgrading some software as well, math software to assist students in needed support at almost $9,000. So just some improvements going on throughout the schools overall.
So Joe, when they make that targeted authorization for the million, just over the $1 million into the 2% reserve, they give you a breakdown of the projects that are gonna be funded?
Yes, yeah.
By the end of the year, they
Yeah.
will, yeah.
Along with the amount, right?
Yes,
To do that,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, they're
Usually in
pretty
Au- usually
thorough as
August.
far as that
Usually
goes.
in August.
Yeah, I mean, the only there is upside to this whole thing. I mean, the fact that we don't get the surplus back anymore. If they're gonna use that $1 million to invest in infrastructure for the school and do big projects, the only good thing with that is.
Less the bond. Less
It's
debt.
out of pocket.
Yeah.
You don't have to bond
Right,
for it.
right, pay
And,
for it.
you know, the bond interest rates right now are the highest they've been in probably 25 years. I mean, 2 years ago, I
They
think
were
John
low,
did a
cheap,
bond, I did a bond for a 1.25%,
Yeah.
which was like a 50-year historic low. And now the bond rates were up about 3.5, three quarters. So,
We refund.
Yeah, refund it.
Under
Yeah.
1 year.
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, there is upside to doing that. You know, if you got roofs to replace at Amity, doing them now and paying them out of that surplus is the way to go, because this way here you don't have to bond for it.
But
Because bonding for
There's a
it.
big difference there.
Yeah, well,
When you're
listen,
asking people to support a budget,
yep,
and you articulate exactly what you're paying that money for, that's what you have the referendum and choice with.
right.
When you have historically had the type of surpluses that we have here, there's a habit that's been formed, and we all know it.
Yeah.
Most importantly, though, is those items that are now articulated to be spent on, money on, all right, were never voted on by anybody, other than a few people, all right, that happen to be on the board, okay? And fortunately, some can almost say magically, the Democratic legislator, of which the Teachers Association and superintendents have significant influence, have instituted this 2% idea. Now, were it happening and they had to get approval or even discussion with boards of finance of 3 towns, that would be a very different thing, I think. And it was that led Matt Giglietti to say after 20 years, I'm not playing this game, and that's why he left.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that there's an issue of authorization, right? Rather than, oh, we have inflated budgets and now we have this we can do 2% and we can spend it. I mean, spending it on a roof, a 20-year roof, I don't care what the bonding cost is. You know, I've been hearing the argument saving you the bonding cost over at Amity for 5 years, back when you were just talking to John, how low the rates were
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
You know, it may be that today's low rates compared to what it'll be in the future if we read the $1 trillion deficits rate that are coming our way. But peace, I just wanted to make sure we all understood that that's a factor to be considered here too. That's all.
All right, I'm good, Mr.
That's all I
Chairman.
got.
We're good, all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're good, thank
So
you.
we'll move on to item 6, budget discussion. Vote to reaffirm budget amount and possible vote to set the mill rate if the budget passes on the referendum on Wednesday. Okay, so John. So we want to reaffirm the budget, the total amount of $80,249,651, and we would have a mill rate. If the referendum passes, we want to set the mill rate at 32.31 mils, correct?
Correct.
We can do that now, John?
Yes.
Rather than have to do it right after we have the vote and run in a room and do it then, like we used to.
Last year or 2 years ago, we did it at a meeting now, ahead of time.
I think it's a good
And
idea.
I will not be here on Wednesday. So
I
with
won't
Kevin
either.
away and with Ajit in California, I don't think we'll have 4 people to set the mill rate on Wednesday night, should it pass.
Well, more importantly, we did it last time.
Right.
Yeah, so we have precedent. Okay. So do we need a motion?
Yes.
We do.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make that motion unless you.
I'll second the motion.
Kevin, if you would like to make it.
And that'll be, just to clarify, subject to the referendum passing on
Yep.
Wednesday, May 17th.
Correct.
So 32.2.31
32.31.
Yeah,
for both motor vehicle and real estate.
Right.
Right.
We should say that also.
Yes,
motor
I did.
vehicle,
That was a good
real
ad.
estate.
Yep.
oh, it's all three.
I heard
It's
Jim
the
say
other
that.
one, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Motor vehicle, real estate, personal property.
There's 3 things there, yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Perfect. Okay, so there's a motion, there's a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, item number 7, discussion and possible vote to transfer funds to cover road paving. Memo from Bob Britton, our town engineer.
And I asked Bob for a second memo because of the transfer station. The costs down there have been going up astronomical.
Oh, yeah.
And at one point, we thought we were gonna have a deficit down there.
Statewide, no.
And I wouldn't support this transfer if we were gonna have a deficit down there. Because even though they're different departments, they all fall under Public Works.
Right.
So, but Bob now believes that he's not gonna have a deficit. In the email I sent out to you, and the second thing on Friday, I think it was.
Yep.
So if you wanna do this, I don't really have a problem with it. Seeing that Mr. Breton thinks that will cover his,
So he's gonna hit the detail he applied to that email. He already has revised budget with the increased numbers and then where we're gonna land overall, right, John?
Right.
That's if I read this right?
right, that's the way I'm reading it too.
Should I open up the other one too, John, the original Breton email, memo?
Whatever you would like, yeah.
Well, I got the second
If you're
one
gonna
already.
vote on it, you probably should open it up, so.
Okay, so here's
everybody
the
can see
original
it.
one from Breton, right?
The original one is where we have to transfer 136,000?
Right.
Yep.
And that'll cover the overage on the paving for the spring.
Well, that's not any different, or is it? He just gave you detail of the other accounts, John?
This is a separate department within the Public
same.
Works budget.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is the transfer station.
Okay, so
department.
I'm looking at the second one, so it's on the screen here for us. So what was concerning you, and particularly, you're really educating me. I heard your words before and I got the gist of it, but just educate me where your concern was that this memo.
It was mostly the bottom from solid waste disposal.
Okay, here's the memo, we're all
Yeah,
looking
go to
at
the
it.
No,
second
you
page.
gotta go to the
Okay.
third page, I
Or
think.
third
Okay,
page,
thank you.
Whatever it is. Right there, if you turn that
Yep, just give me a,
correctly.
if I do a view and flip. And make it a boost. Okay,
Okay, if you go from solid waste disposal all the way down, my concern were all those accounts.
Yeah, in the red.
okay, let me just slide it
Jack,
over,
explain
we
that
can
again.
see.
The recycling business is, seems to
What,
be dead.
well, what
It's forcing
happened,
us to get rid
couple
of
of things happened. Recycling business dried up. There's nothing for household recycling, nothing for electronics, very little for metal. And then he also had to bid the contracts out last April. And when the contracts came back, they were higher than what he had in his budget.
Almost
So,
double, we're saying.
right, that's why you see in the budget that starts July 1, these accounts took big increases for that. Household recycling, we're paying almost as much now as if you took the stuff to the dump and
And this is
threw it in the
state
hot
mandated
by
still for-
state
right? There's no way to
mandated.
get around that, I know.
Right.
Okay, so
And then we
John,
have, and then we have the other problem is the place where you bring the household recyclables and whereas the Cheshire or whatever burned down about a month ago. Yeah, so,
They used to call that some kind of lightning back
Yeah.
in the day. Okay, John, getting back to the specifics of this memo, tell me, just educate me. I'm now looking at this memo, right? So what changed, or what made you now say, okay, now I'm better with it?
he went back and he looked at his estimates and he
Yes.
took the whole department.
Department, right.
And you could see he's got $25,000 now in vacant part-time
Okay, so he's got a
positions.
revised budget and projected expense that pretty much balance,
Right, you can
1221
see.
and 1220.
Yeah, you can see he thinks he's
Okay.
gonna have $471.
Yeah, God bless him if he's that close.
13 cents, we
Yeah.
got it. Okay,
Yeah.
but he's willing to live with it.
I mean, I could live with a few $1,000
Yeah,
negative
yeah.
there too. 150 I can't live with.
No.
Okay.
Good conscience.
Yeah.
Let's,
So he went back and sharpened his pencil, and because of that, now you're supportive of moving this money, right, over, for which we.
Yeah, because he's probably halting some other things and, you know, he's
What
just,
probably happened is when I told him I wouldn't support the transfer, if he was gonna be that far over, he probably went back and looked better at it.
Okay, okay. So when we do get to the expense sheets here, right? And we see on the memo, on the page where he lives, right, which is somewhere on the upper right there, I remember there were 3 of them, right? When we get to that page, and Kevin's looking them up, thank you, Kevin. Is it
Right
these
there,
3?
see, refuse.
Yeah.
No, go down, particularly the refuge one, 261. It's
Ah. I'm
at the
sorry,
bottom
John?
of your- 261, Department 261,
Oh, go further?
right there.
Right there,
Okay,
right
thank you.
That's the one we're speaking of right now.
Okay, and so he's thinking that he's going to be okay in that
Right.
whole budget.
Overall, yeah.
Overall,
Overall, yeah.
And because of that, you're good.
I'm good.
And on that, you're recommending it to us.
So he's taking money out of a salaried supervisor's line. Is that because somebody left or retired or? Because it was like
We're
140.
talking about the
The refuse,
account.
yeah, yeah.
There's 2 part-time positions there we haven't filled.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, but we're gonna be moving money, John, from this account up here, right? This 138,000,
Right,
yeah, from streets and
136.
bridges and,
yeah.
well,
Right.
2 streets and bridges from snow plowing, sand and salt and overtime.
right. And we only have this money because of the winter we had.
That's
there.
exactly
Oh,
what I
yeah.
was gonna say,
Right.
yeah. Okay, so.
So your motion would be to approve the memo from Britain on April 14th to move the money from
we
these
did the
3
from and
accounts
to-
to
From
streets
those
and
3
bridges.
accounts, Deb, you have this memo?
Do you want each individual one in the motion?
Yeah,
Should-
it
Yeah, there should be a
Yes.
motion, yeah.
No problem, yep.
So it'll be one motion, 3 froms, and all to, same 2. The 3 numbers will be 24,000, 53,000, 59,000, for a total of 136. I'd be happy to make the motion, but I always just made the last one. Joe, you want to make this?
I'll make that motion.
Yeah,
Okay, motion by Joe, is there a
I'll second it.
Second by Kevin. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, unanimous. Okay. Item number 8, discussion and approval of minutes from Monday, March 20th, 2023, regular meeting.
One of them already had a thing on it, right? Oh, unapproved, okay.
Okay, you want me to start? I don't have too much.
Sure.
John, you're batting lead off as usual. You're
Okay.
in mid-season form.
On page 1, Deb, just above number 6 budget, Mr. Leahy, I would add capital fund account, put fund in there instead of just capital account, capital fund account. And,
Let me see, I got them all open, John.
I believe
don't
that's
think
all
do.
I had on that one.
I have a question, and so if I could, on page 2, and John, I'll direct this to you. Paragraph 2, it starts with the word, there was discussion. The 4th line down. He, which I guess means you, John, believes that a state grant will be available to address the flooding issues on Pine. Okay, so we're not sure, but I'm just asking you, would that be a state grant of 100%, or do we not know that either?
We don't know that.
Okay.
I believe there's a lot of competition for the grants, so
Okay.
we may get some of it, all of it.
What type of grant is that,
All
John?
right,
Is that
well,
for the
thank you. I
bond
had
commission?
no,
I don't know. Mr. Britton handles that.
Gotcha.
okay, I didn't have anything on this particular, Kevin, on that March.
Just again, it
20.
just shows there's a lot of moving parts on some of this stuff here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else?
Okay.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion to approve by Kevin, is there a second?
I'll second it, yeah.
Second by Jim, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, unanimous.
I'm looking for the other, oh,
Okay.
here it is here.
April 20th, 2023 budget hearing minutes.
John, bat lead off,
Okay,
please.
I just have one little technical one. Under guests, that I think we should put other town officials and members of the public. Just to identify there were more residents and town employees there than they're identifying. And I think that's all I really have there.
Okay. I have a couple for our consideration. On the, under call to order, the second bullet, Deb, I found that last sentence awkward, so I have a proposal. I'd be happy to listen to it. And because when I read the words, in addition, expenditures for the year were 1.22% less than revenues, which would indicate a decrease in taxes. I think it's directionally correct, but I think there's a better way to say it. So I would cross all that off as a tentative, but let me read to you what I have here, and I apologize for not typing it up. So rather than that last sentence, I would say this. The bottom line, I think you guys remember we used that bottom line, the bluff bottom line up front thing. The bottom line, colon. With an unusually strong grand list increase. The Orange Board of Finance, OBOF, proposed a mill rate of 32.31
We didn't,
that night.
not at that point of the meeting, we did not.
I had already,
That was at the end when we did your house was
Oh.
32.
well,
Because
then help
with
me.
minutes, I'm not rewriting history, we're
No, no.
sticking to what happened at that time.
Well, okay,
And we
help-
did not talk mill rate at the very beginning of the meeting.
Okay, then help me edit what was clearly not well said, okay? So here's what so that's not good. I
So-
accept that, Kevin.
So so you wanted,
Here's what I said, and then you listen to the final part of the sentence, and then you can edit it from there. And I'm 100% good with not putting the mill rate in because you're correct, okay? All I'm trying to say is this. With an unusually strong grand list increase, the OBOF proposed something, a budget maybe, which would reduce taxes by 1.22%. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think that's what you just said.
Yeah,
I think you just said it
Perfect.
exactly how we
And I
want
just took
it.
out the 32.31.
I think
Okay,
that's
Thank you.
perfect.
Deb, did you get all that?
One more time.
Okay. The bottom line, Colin, with an unusually strong grand list increase, the OBF, Orange Board of Finance proposed a budget which would reduce taxes by 1.22%. I think it holds the integrity of what we did, all right, in the order we did it. Thank you, Kevin. And also, it's clearer than combined files. This is something I've never seen before. Okay, so there's that one. What I would like to do, and I think I have it open here, Deb, on the top of page 2, it wasn't clear to me, and I had written the slides. When you said has a 1.47% decrease. Oh, here it is. Joe, I'm having trouble getting my cursor to come down here. There we go. Here's the slide, so we can just look at it and read the numbers. We went from There's the numbers, Deb, I don't know if you can read them. We went from 50.369, can you see it up there in the middle? To 48.894. And that's where the 1.47, point 5. So I think if you just please put in these two numbers from this number to this number here, so from 50.369 to 48.894, that will kind of let people know where that 1.47, that seemed to come out
So
of the
that
air.
means the Orange Amity student population.
Yeah.
Right. Reduced by 1.48%.
For 475, actually, put,
Yeah.
so Deb, here's what we do, have a 1.475%, okay? In the portion of the, you got an edit on that one, John? Of the-
No, I was just making sure she said Amity student,
Okay.
Orange Amity
From, and you
student.
got the 50 and the 48, okay, thank you.
Jim, you're a Harvard guy. You gotta roll that back to two decimal points, not 3.
I am using the Amity standard of 3 decimal points.
Is that what they use?
Yeah,
Really?
they do. Yeah, I never use 3 decimal points.
I
That's-
never do either.
I remember in GE, quick aside.
Yeah, that's my
So,
former
when
company.
I went
That's
out-
why I said that.
When I was, that's right. GE.
That's why I said that.
When I was down at Major Appliances in Louisville,
Not too long ago.
Kevin, they used to have everything out to 4 decimal places. I mean, for the most minute things. I mean, just because the computers, it was new back then, you know?
Yeah,
Oh, wow,
yeah.
we can put it up to 4 decimal places.
Yeah.
So anyway, let me see what else we got here.
By the time I got the G, we
Oh,
were down to 2.
back to this document, okay.
I know, yeah, I know.
All right, on page 2, still on page
I
2,
do too,
Deb.
by more.
I don't know if this is, bullet 2 under number 2, Dr. Scott Petty discussed their budget process, noting that actual student enrollment typically increases each year. I would say, not just prior to the start of the year, I would say throughout the school year. It seems to do that throughout the school year. So you could either say prior
Some
or.
up and down, but overall, yeah,
It's throughout the
He
year.
sends us the monthly
Yeah,
spreadsheets.
it's because we get the monthly reports.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't
So-
think we've gotten it in a while, though.
I got one last month.
Yeah,
Is there?
I do.
I don't think I did.
Maybe they deleted you.
Okay.
I'll have to make
That's
sure you're on the
because he
list
doesn't-
though.
A small
because he
one
doesn't have a
on
hand
item, budget, item 3, the fourth
He's missing
bullet.
somebody?
Yeah, she left. She retired. I'm
Are
sorry.
we good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. The fourth bullet, the last couple of words in that bullet. I think the overall proposed 2023-24 budget increase is, okay? We already talked about the effect on orange. The last section on item 4, first of all, there's an error. The second last sentence, residents can vote, you see that one, Deb? Can vote on the Amity budget on May, I believe it was 2nd, not the 17th? Second.
Yeah, we're the 17th.
All right. So Deb, here's what I would do. Put that sentence before the sentence that says important. In other words, we should have that sentence in sequential order of dates, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the residents can vote on the Amity budget on May 2nd. Important upcoming dates. Oh, wait a minute, we should, well, let's put this. Important upcoming dates are maybe colon, residents can vote on the Amity budget on May 2nd, annual town meeting on May 10th, and I think we should say Orange Town budget referendum on May 17th. Do you
Yep.
see that? Read it?
Yeah, because Amity's a referendum.
Then you can say all of the previously mentioned meetings and voting dates. So I should say meetings and voting dates, I think you have to say, because the town meetings are meeting, the voting dates, so that will be at High Plains Community Center. So that's what I have there. On the final page, the bullet of Mitch, I think the last sentence, either say he asked that all residents support the Amity budget, or he asked all residents, I think it'd be better to take out the word that. That way it makes a clear sentence of what he said, okay?
He asked if all residents support Amity. He did.
Yeah. And although I think Mark Moyer, if I'm saying his name right, I thought they mentioned at the end they may announce the recycling day, I thought,
They did. He did.
on
Yep.
Saturday. So I would add to Mark's, he supports Mitch, and I would add a sentence, he announced,
April 29th again, right?
was it 29th or 22 days later?
29.
Was it 29th? Okay. He announced that there was a recycling day at High Plains and other locations on April 29th, or something. I think I remember them saying it for sure.
He did.
Yeah, because he came back
Because I
up.
remember going over to him,
He
he said,
just-
remind
he
people what the
started to
date
walk
was.
away, and then he
Yeah.
came back up.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, because I talked to him. I said, hey, tell everybody what the date was. God bless America, but that's what I got to.
I had one small change.
What do you got, Joey?
You got anything, Kev?
I'm good.
It was under two,
Two?
Orange Board of Ed, second bullet. It says the 23-24 budget had a 3.37 increase of $23 million.
Increase,
Of X on their.
we have to
that
take
budget
out,
amount,
oh, yeah.
That
So
should
what
say for-
about,
That should say for a total budget on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
for a
good-
total budget? I like
that's a
that,
good
Kevin.
catch.
Nice catch.
So-
Good catch, Joe.
So
Good edit,
so
Kevin.
it's a 3.37 increase of the total budget, not
Yeah.
of $23 million increase.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's a good catch.
Wait a minute. Time out.
From the guy that wasn't even
What
there.
are we doing?
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
the total budget.
All right.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yeah, thanks.
Second by Jim. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Okay, they have to abstain, that wasn't there?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think so.
So
So-
everybody else in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Joe abstains. All right, 3-0-1.
We're all in favor.
Thank you.
Revenue report.
Okay, item number 9, to review revenue and expense reports for May 2023.
So, John, if I could, so we had a budget, I'm looking at the back end of this revenue report, right?
All right, so we're on revenue, not expense. We'll do revenue first.
Yes.
Good.
And if I'm reading this right, we are to the good by 309,000 in the right-hand side. Am I reading this right, John?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Favorable, yes.
but we're gonna be even better, I believe.
Well-
Because not included in here
I have
is,
100 in special duty and 60 park and rec.
I think the
yeah.
100, didn't we use that to buy the cars?
No, this is different. This is their special duty. They get charged to an account, but the benefits are in the general fund. So at the end of the year, Art does a Excel sheet that gives us the FICA, the Medicare, the workman's comp. And that's an estimate every year. We may even get more than that this year because there was so much special duty work with the cable companies working out there.
Oh, they were everywhere.
Yep.
But also, which isn't in this report that we got in the last 2 days, we got 100,000 today from UNH for their agreement with us for in lieu of
That's not
taxes.
budgeted?
It's budgeted, but it's not in
It's
here.
not in here yet.
We hadn't collected it yet.
But it's
So
budgeted, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to, that 309 that Jim
Before
had
that.
said we're to the good, will be, well, it's going even higher because we also got the 125 from Racebrook Country Club on Friday.
Okay.
As
But
their-
that's budgeted too.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is just, oh, if we're
Yeah.
going over here remaining,
Yeah.
we're over.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just took where
So
we
that
are
brings-
now, Kev, with the
that brings us up
309.
pretty
That's-
high
John
from
was-
that 309.
All right, so you're expecting another 100 from special, UNH, well, you already got, 125 from Racebrook,
Right,
likely 100 or more from special duty, right?
right.
We will get the 60 from Park and Rec.
Rec.
Okay, and then anything else that's in there that we have yet to collect.
Right. There'll still be some taxes to collect.
So we could have a $600,000 surplus this time in June
Of revenue,
on revenue.
on
On
revenue.
revenue, on
Okay.
revenue.
All right, let me just,
Which, what bailed us out is the interest.
Interest saved us.
Interest saved us.
642,000
Yep.
so far.
There's something going on up in Hartford, though. You know, the 18% we collect on tax interest.
They're looking to drop it to 12.
They should have dropped
my
it
God.
to 6
On delinquents.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
The fact that they're charging somebody 18% because they're a month late on their car taxes when interest rates were 0 on the Fed funds rate is disgusting. Because you're hurting people that you shouldn't be hurting. I mean, they're all hypocrites up
What
there.
bothers me, though, I don't disagree on dropping it, but all these cities and towns' budgets are just about done.
Right.
So it's gonna hurt us next year.
Should have announced it.
But
in
we don't
February.
have a lot built in there for
No,
that.
because we collect a
'Cause
lot.
we're
but
99%.
Still, it makes budgeting very tough.
Well,
Like
it does.
Joe just said on the special education, they're playing with the things. So we used one number. The estimates we used on some of the money coming back to the town, that could change
Don't
in the
say
2
85 when you
weeks.
give 73. Just don't, that's
Yeah,
average. Don't say
they're
85.
they're even talking about changing how you tax some of the commercial properties
Right.
too, right?
Yeah, they're trying all kinds of gimmicks.
Yeah.
All kinds
Oh, now they want to get rid of cars too, I think, completely,
They
right?
talked about that.
Okay.
But the 18%, I'm in favor of lowering it. You get somebody loses a job, somebody's sick, you go
Yeah.
2 years without paying your house taxes at 18%?
Yeah.
It's like credit card debt. You're never
a
getting
lot.
out of that.
Right.
It is like credit card.
And,
debt.
when rates were nothing, I mean, back, 1990, I'm old, 1991, we had 10% CDs, okay, charge 18%. Not when it's,
Now it's almost like
not
yeah,
now.
I don't disagree.
They never
with you.
fixed it.
I really don't.
John, in the spirit of educating me and also for improving our forecasts in the future, I have a couple of questions. On page 1, under buildings and I'll have this.
Okay, we're done with revenue?
No, we're on revenue right now, page
Yeah,
1.
page one.
Okay.
Okay,
That increase you see there in buildings is because we increased our permit fee starting July 1 of '22.
So you doubled it. Yeah.
Hadn't been moved in 10 years.
Yeah.
what was the increase?
Because we talked about that in this year's
percentage?
budget, because our prior year budget to this year's budget went way up, and this is
Right.
why.
Right, absolutely.
What, I'm trying to get to who's making the forecasts in a number of these, okay? Because I think we can do better. And it's great to have big surprises, but they also can be the
Well,
other
you-
way.
Again, you couldn't do it here because it was an increase that came
Mid-year?
about, yes.
Okay, thank you. But who does make the forecast on building permits? building-
Usually Art and I, more
Okay.
Art.
That's fine, I'm not
They're
critiquing.
basically the revenue, unless we know something
Yep.
is gonna affect it, it's usually what the amount is the previous year. I
Okay.
mean, it's
In the spirit of
very hard.
educating this board, I noticed that we have an 18,000 zoning violation. Can you educate us on that?
Yeah, that was the Planning and Zoning Commission with the town attorney. When certain people have violations of
Yes.
their property, they have a certain number of time to rectify it. If they don't rectify it, they're charged a certain
Okay,
dollar a day.
that's fine, I don't need names.
And I believe, I'm not giving a name, I believe it's put on the land records. And then usually when the house is sold is when you get that money. Hey, this is very unusual. I saw that today too. And I went back and looked over the last 3 or 4 years. In past years, we've gotten $1,000,
Yep.
$2,000.
Yeah, the guy who's fined for having an illegal sign in front of his shop for a while, and he just pays it, and other people never pay it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going through this list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm on page 2, and I notice dog licenses are way down. Does that
That's
mean
in
people are
June.
not getting dog
No,
licenses?
that's in June. Dog licenses are in June.
June is
So
dog.
that is a spike.
Yeah.
June is
Thank
dog
you.
month.
It's on the website that it's dog month.
Dog month,
Something
yeah.
like-
And in the spirit of the interest rates, which was such interest income, which is such a great benefit to us this year, do you do the forecast of what we're gonna do for next year, or how will that be done?
On what?
The
We already
for-
did it for the budget.
It's already done.
Okay,
It's already done.
And
I
what
think
do-
he did it figuring what the rate was at the time, and it's gone up probably 3 or 4 times since we did that.
okay, so we probably will have a favorable one next year, at least as
Hopefully,
far as
that'd be
budget.
nice, because things might get reduced
Okay,
again. I mean,
Page
we-
4 was special duty. Okay, then on page 4, John,
Okay,
and this is again to educate me. So I'm looking at these pool area, right?
Sorry.
And I'm seeing pool guest fees. And I'm imagining myself going up there because I have a bad back, right? And what I do is I pay $5 because I don't have a membership, and I go in and tread water for about 45 minutes, well worth it, right? $5.
I don't know what the fee is, but
It's $5.
is that?
4 or
okay.
$5, okay? And then I see $250 over 10 months. So I divide 250 by my $5, and I said, there've been 50 Jim Leahy's going up there once. Feels odd. See, it feels low.
Probably because it's cheaper to buy the pool membership than it is to pay the $5.
Then who would have $3,000 as the estimate forecast for guest fees?
I
That's-
bel-
Well, memberships are way down too. Everything's way down.
Well,
Yeah,
I thought so
think if
too,
you look,
Kev.
I think if you look at the pool, I think our receipts have been way down over the last 10 years, to tell you the truth. I think that's been trending even when I was on this board. It may start to go, well, for one, during the COVID years.
It was
the pool
closed.
was closed. But it may start to go up if, like, Woodbridge closes their pool. You know, right now,
Oh, yeah.
there's reciprocal agreements between Woodbridge, Orange, and YMCA. But if Woodbridge closes their pool, some of those people may come here. Also, you're in competition with the, what's the thing down on Amity Road there, the Jewish,
Oh, the JCC.
JCC.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of different places for people to swim now.
Kev, I noticed the same thing at the pool. Then I noticed two things. Number one, there are 2 pool membership categories here.
Yeah.
And my wish was we don't have to fight through here on this board because someone wants to have one that's 00015 and one, or 25 and 00035, and they're both pool memberships.
Yeah, I think one is for credit cards and one is for cash. That
Yeah,
should
we had the same
disappear.
issue with the cars now.
Art,
The-
I think, is getting rid of those little by little.
Okay,
I'll
well-
ask them to look at it again.
Good,
for
so on
some
the
other
next
ones.
page, you have 2 more on exactly that same issue on permits food service and permits
Yeah,
septic.
I
You
got
have the
that.
exact same thing.
Same thing is septic.
And it gets
permits.
real, you think you found something, and you say, well, now I have to do some math.
And it's still,
And I'm
it's still
thinking to
lower,
myself,
but
should
yeah.
I be on the clock here? I mean, you know what I mean? This
You know
is
what
a-
I think it is on some of those there? You don't see a budget there for it. I think they're probably using old paperwork when they bring their receipts over to Art, and they're
Yeah.
using a bad number. I'll have them check on that.
What would be helpful if they were either next to each other or combined?
No, they should be combined.
Okay.
I don't think now we
Last
really
one on the
care
revenue,
whether
John, the
it's
next
credit
page,
cards
final
or
page.
No, that's an internal thing for you guys to see if it's worth having the
Yeah.
credit cards.
Yeah.
And clearly, with the amount of charges we're seeing, it is.
not. Oh, yeah, it is. Whether it's worth it having it separated to see how much is credit card and
Right.
cash, I don't think it is anymore.
And the last one, John, on the top of the last page, or the final page, page 6, there's we seem to be 75,000 to the good, if I understand it right.
No. we're not. What that is employees that are out on workman's comp. We pay their salary and then we're reimbursed the percentage from the.
So it's actually a bad
insurance
thing because
company.
we're reimbursed a percentage because the hit comes on the other side, on the
Right.
expense side.
Right.
Right? That's
And
all
we're
I
only
have.
reimbursed about
On that one.
66% of
Yep.
their salary.
All right. Okay, John, taking the same tack on the expense report.
Okay.
All right, now I really need an education here. The structure of this document.
Okay.
I see the original appropriation, 78,367, 690, which exactly matches our revenue number.
Correct.
But then I see that we've had, and I counted them, 128 transfers or adjustments, all right? In the library alone, they had 9, which changed their budget by, I think, $47. So it feels like there's some inside baseball that I don't know we as a board need to be exposed to here,
No.
okay?
The way the system works is you have your original appropriation.
Yep.
Then if you have encumbrances from the previous years, when
Yeah.
we close the fiscal year, the encumbrances come in on the line items where they're encumbered.
So they come into column 2 from the
come into
left?
column 2, but
Which is part
column
of that
2.
million, right.
Yeah,
Column 2 also includes any transfers
That we-
between accounts.
that we touched.
Not necessarily. You only have to touch transfers that involve salaries or over 20,000.
Okay.
Which we did tonight.
Right. The department heads are allowed to do anything under that with my approval. And I also do transfers for all those union contracts that are being negotiated.
Okay,
And raises.
So when we start looking at revenue that's bringing in 78, 367, 690 or more, and I see something that's saying we're spending 79, 415, 583, all right, third column, revised budget, I kind of would have to more than a little warm and fuzzies that I'm looking at
We're not short $1 million.
No.
correct.
No.
In that
You're
direction
still-
of the circle.
You're still spending 78, 367, 690.
Okay.
That 1,047,000 that increases it is, again, encumbrances from previous budgets.
Okay.
Which is probably like a 500,000, probably, right, or more.
Probably more.
Well, I have
It's
18
probably the-
categories, and
it's
I have
probably
the
the-
amounts
it's probably
per
actually
one
the 1,047.
as I was preparing for this.
Because we haven't done anything to increase the budget. We haven't moved anything from fund balance into the budget.
Right.
Well, let's take a peek. Why don't we go to right to page 4, because that's where the first, there's some little ones which I don't want to get into, like on page.
Before we go into this too, let me say, most of the salary accounts for the unions
Yes.
are either over already or going to be over because of the negotiated new union contracts, and I haven't made adjustments yet. What I'm gonna do is wait until the end of the year, and we're probably gonna have almost a full accrued payroll, because the last payroll in June gets paid in July, and I think it's 11 days, 10 days, something like that.
Is that why you have the 200,000 encumbered in employee benefits, partly for that?
Partly for that.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm just trying to, this is what my brain was doing for a couple hours this afternoon, and it was not happy doing it, by the way, but it's part of the job, right? So I'm going down this thing, and I'm saying, okay, we have a few in assessors, so that's Mark, I don't want to deal with that. A couple things in finance, I got that. And then I got to, I think it was IT. And then I said, yeah, I think we did add some things in there with IT, or maybe it was from last year, I don't know.
Those were all encumbrances
From last year.
54K, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
then you
exactly
can
what I
see-
was doing,
And then
Kevin.
you can see his current encumbrances in the far column there.
Right,
Yep.
okay. Well, I still see him at 80%, and at this point of the year,
That's what I
you're
expect.
10 and 1/3 months in at May 11th, that's 86%, so I still think we're still under. Now, when you say 80.6%, this is another question I had, I was doing this, that's of the revised budget, correct?
Right.
So we're still tying back, not to the 78 million that we always thought our budget was, right, Kev? Right? We're tying back to a higher number, the 1 million more number, right?
Right.
In each selective category.
Right.
All right, I just wanted to make sure I'm thinking about this right. All right, so there's not a lot to talk about there. Global question. What do you feel, how are you feeling about this expense amount and living within the budget and encumbrances for the end of the year per your assessment at this moment in time, John?
We're probably going to be close to even. We're not going to have a big surplus there.
So if-
So we're gonna be over on the expense side by $500,000. And
I don't think we'll be over, but we may be a little negative.
So if we had 600 on the revenue side and 100 or 200,000 here,
Overall,
that's
the
where
bud-
we're,
overall, the budget will be in balance.
That's where the
with
betting
two,
public would be right now.
But in the past, we've been surpluses on both revenue and
right,
expense.
that's right, and we
Right.
still
So-
have that analysis we
So
gotta do
you're
in
not-
October.
are we thinking we're at break even, or are we thinking we got a $400,000 surplus?
Right now, I think we might be at break even.
Total.
I just gotta see a couple of things, the way they hit. I know I could cover all the payrolls. I should have some money left over there, in that column over there. I know we're gonna be over on the, water for the fire hydrants by about 30,000.
Yep. We got a bunch of electricity accounts we're gonna be
The
over.
that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the electricity accounts with the increases
Yeah.
we've had for this year. But then again, they're talking about those rates going down on July 1, so we may get to catch a break
They
in the
talked
new
about that,
budget.
then they came out of the other side of their mouth and said they might go up again.
Yeah, so you don't know, you don't know. I mean, I thought I covered the water for the fire hydrants in this current budget with what I went up on, and they went up even, the water companies messed up. They can't get bills out right, I mean.
They just take it out of my account every month now, because it's
Well,
monthly.
that's even more dangerous. But,
Okay, well, if that's where you're
one
thinking, John.
of the things I'd like to do,
Yes,
Jim, could you go to towards the end where we have the benefits?
yes, I can get you there. If anybody can't want to yell out the page number, that would help me, but I could probably get you close, Renee, close anyway.
Page
Right
22.
there, right there.
Whoop.
Oop, right there.
Right here, thank you.
If we look at the negotiated thing there.
Reserve the top line,
yeah,
yes.
Right now I have 652,000 really there.
Yep,
Probably gonna move about 300. I'm not gonna have a union contract for the dispatchers. I'm gonna have to save some money there. If we have any money there left, and I think we're still in balance there, I may come back to you and ask you to move that money to sick and this accrued sick leave account to encumber it there. I wanna build up that account because we do have some retirements coming up in the future where we're gonna have to pay in the police department, some big bucks there. Instead of going up and down in the budget every year, we can maybe level it by doing that where we already have some of the money.
so since we're talking about this now, just give me 25 more words, would you? What is the situation with police retirements that requires more money in that? Just giving a practical example.
Policemen, when they retire, they get to retire, I think it's 160 days, if I'm not mistaken, at their salary or when they retire. And they're allowed to take that over 2 years.
Take that money?
Take that money over 2 years.
I see. How
That's
many
their
people
unused sick
get
time.
this?
Unused sick-
It's their unused sick time.
Is this a limited set of people that,
No, it's in their contract, by their contract.
oh, so everybody in the police department eventually would,
Builds up to that, yeah.
Right.
wow.
It used to be
It,
all their sick time,
yeah.
because
Oh, so there's
I had
a-
a client there paid for like 3 years.
Oh, so there's a max to it now?
I think it's 160
they
days,
capped
but
it,
I'm not sure.
But it used to be unlimited. If you were never sick and you were on the force for 30 years,
Never sick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
right, yeah.
okay,
no, we've seen some crazy things.
okay.
Big payouts. Yeah.
John,
I just think if we could do it, it's a good thing to do, that 1 year, we're not gonna see that line item jump up quite a bit.
Right.
Okay. No, I like your thought, John. I have a lot of confidence in you, as you know. Let me go to page 7, and you'll get the drift of this on page 7. Okay. So electricity caught my eye under Town Hall building. See that one, Joe? Electricity? And I see 30,000, I'm saying, oh man, is everybody going over on electricity? Is it like my bill and Kevin's bill? And I say, oh no, it's at 79% of budget. I said, hey, that's a good news thing. Then I went to page 8. And I got to police. General service, I guess, and there was another electricity, Joe, for 41,000. Yeah, we're only at 30, and we're at 75%. And we're 86% way through the year. I said, that's a good thing. I'll do one more. I then went to Public Works, which is on page 12. It's at the bottom of the page, and there's two of them. One I think says streets, but we only...
Streetlights.
well, you know, and then there was a TR or whatever that was. And the streets were a lot higher, and that was 85%, pretty much on the level of amount for the year, I would say. And the other one was 73. Okay. Now, it turns out that there are 12 of these electricity accounts in this 25-page document. The one that I'd like to talk about is on page 15. And again, I'm just looking at numbers and giving you what I got. Community center, 45,900, we're already at 62, we are at 136%. And I'm saying to myself, we have 13 of these accounts. One of them is at 136,000 for electricity. And all the others, 7 of them from 70 to 79%, 2 are in the 80s, 1 is at 90, and 1 is at 52. And I'm asking myself the question that all of us are now going to ask. Why is it so high in community center?
Probably because of the pool. No?
Probably.
The pool's located
The
there.
pool has its own, I think. Park and Rec has an 80.
Well, do we know?
In
that-
page 18, we have the pool, Kevin.
Do we have 10 months posted for all these accounts?
That's the other thing.
That's what I always get concerned.
Oh, okay.
That we don't have all the bills posted for, it's May.
You may only
this
have
was out
9.
You might have.
But
have
Kev,
9.
they missed a bill.
70% to 136%, that's a
there
double
is a
here,
pool.
right?
Well, yeah, this one, that one's
the pool
definitely an
electricity.
anomaly. The other ones might be missing a month.
My mother
Or not.
used to say, turn down the heat. I don't know if that's the,
Oh, you know what?
We-
I know.
We turned down the
You know,
heat at the
put on
pool
another
once.
I know.
sweater or
We're
something.
not doing that again.
I know what the problem
I remember
is
that.
there.
Yeah, that creates, they lowered the pool water temperature by like 3 degrees and
But this isn't,
there was almost a riot.
but this isn't, electricity doesn't heat the
No,
pool.
you know what that is? That was the work they did on the lighting there. That's a 3-year project that we pay over 3 years
For High Plains?
for High Plains.
So that's why this is higher, because we're
Yeah.
paying something else
That's
off?
that's paying that carrying cost for the 3 years or 2 years, whatever it is.
Can we
over
find
there.
out this much more detail on a breakout of that one? And if that thing comes into this 60, 70, 80, whatever, on a normal basis, fine. Or if there's another reason, fine, but yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Just
seem
those
to,
comments, yeah.
how come? Right,
Okay.
thank you. Anyone else? Joe? Kevin?
Good.
Anybody?
All right, well, before I ask for a motion, I'm not one, this was gonna come up before, when John, you guys were talking about 401K and the costs. This was May 9th, I think, the New Haven Register, which is not a quality source, but we'll leave that alone. But the Yale School of Management had an editorial in the opinion section. I don't know if you guys saw this. And what they did with their research, which looks like pretty good, and I have copies of this, but it's on the Register's website. Connecticut's investments are 49th in the country.
Pension.
They're
Performance?
saying in the last 10 years, we should have $40 billion more in this state. If we were just in the middle. We're 49th.
Investing money in pensions?
And everything, pension, general fund,
Really? Fire the fund manager.
it's the treasurer.
Oh, God.
That's who's been, we're 49th in the United States, and
Over
it's
the
not
last
even close.
10 years?
Wow.
They did, well, they said it's up to 20, but just over the last 5 years. And they have charts, which there's 6 of
Who's
them,
in
but you
charge?
can't print them.
Oh, my God.
It's
You're
the
talking about,
state,
you're talking about state treasurer.
state treasurer.
Is there a new treasurer this
There's a
year?
new treasurer. now.
Because they're saying, this article,
Oh,
it's,
yeah,
Yale.
not, everything's gonna be better now.
It's their school of management.
Wow.
And they're saying we could have massive tax cuts if we invested our money right.
Wow. That's crazy.
You know,
27
we
to
need a
anybody
new
watching these
program
questions?
to,
27 to 40 billion dollars more we should have right now from the last
Our pensions
several
getting
years.
11%.
I mean,
the
think
last
about that.
Yeah.
3 years.
I mean, over the last 4 years.
It's who are we using for advisors, who are we paying,
Is anybody watching?
Yeah.
It's a mess.
Wow.
And I'm surprised.
another way.
I'm actually surprised Yale came out and wrote this because
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
they're not gonna,
Make any friends.
agitate people, but I guess
Tell the facts.
when they
So,
did this study, it was
put
so bad
another
that
way,
they put it out.
If I gave my money to you, and you got that return,
Be
right?
fired.
And you, unbeknownst to me, had put that money in a place that was getting higher return, you would have gotten that $20 billion, not me. In other words, I'm giving you that money, I'm the state,
Yep.
I give it to you to invest.
And I'm
You
giving
invested here, right? Or say you invested here, and you actually invested up here, you would be the one getting that return. That's what's going on. In
It's-
what, in the simplest way to look at it.
And the state over the last 4 years has had surpluses. I mean, $3.5 billion surplus this
Well,
year is projected.
Yeah,
And
but
what
Kevin,
they're
where did
doing
that
is,
money come from?
what's that?
Where did a lot of
Well,
that money come
a lot
from?
of it's from investment income and stocks related to the revenues with the state of Connecticut.
And a lot
The
of it
stock
came from
market
the.
does well, our revenues at the state do well.
Sure,
Yeah.
but how much of it came from the US government?
Oh, you're talking about the funding for the American Rescue Act and all that other
All
stuff?
the money
The
that came
COVID
from the
money?
government, yeah.
Yeah.
The
well-
money that went to the pensions.
Well, I'm just glad to see that
Yeah.
they're actually paying down the debt on the pensions. We still have $87 billion in pension debt.
That much?
That's carried over like 80 years, though.
Well, we should have had 40
80
billion
years.
less.
There was
I didn't see
not
that,
money
Kevin.
going into the pension
Hey,
fund
could
for
you
all that
send
time.
us a copy of that or a PDF of that? Because
Here's a printed copy, and I'll send you the link tomorrow.
They don't pay
Okay,
attention.
great, as long as I don't have to,
And the who's who, they list the Yale School of, and it lists people who are Yale graduates who helped with this, from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs. I mean, they've got, it's Yale. They got people all over. So this thing is backed up. It's not like I did it and wrote this editorial. I mean, this came from
That's
the
surprising.
School of Management.
It's surprising.
It's terrible. It's
that's the performance.
like whoever wants to run against Scanlon.
Washington?
Oh, Scanlon's the controller.
Oh,
Yeah, he's the controller.
whoever the treasurer is here.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Here.
Yeah.
That's it. You don't.
Wow, that's bad.
You can't.
That's it.
We can't be 49th.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But anyway, I digress.
No,
All right.
this is big.
So is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes,
So moved.
yeah, go
Motion
ahead.
by Kevin,
good.
second by Jim. All those in favor?
Okay.
Joe Joyce.
Aye. Meeting adjourned at
Wow,
9:40,
Oregon was way up there.
8:41.